Hey, everybody. In today's episode, it's myself, Ben, and Dani Barrie, who is a licensed clinical social worker. Dani comes on the podcast today to discuss her own struggles and what finally got her to recognize the level of codependency in her life and how it affected her and what she's doing now. Dani has a heck of a story. She's been practicing in mental health for many, many years, has a lot of experience working with both men and women, helping them recover from their own codependency and really seeing them through to a life of security and being okay with themselves. We discuss codependency. We discuss mental health. We discuss treatment and what are good treatment centers offering. We discuss toxic masculinity and so much more. Enjoy the show. You ready, Ben?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we have Dani Barrie. Dani, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. I'm happy about that.
Awesome. First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, peeps?
Yes.
Also, go to realrecoverytalk.com. On the homepage, you're going to see a little link that says schedule a call. Click that link, and you'll be able to schedule your free, I emphasize free, consultation call with either myself, Ben, or Dr. Tambini. We're going to go over your situation and see if we can assist you in any way. Also, go to realrecoverytalk.com/guides with an S, GUIDES, and you'll see our catalog of free downloadable guides. They are handcrafted by myself, Ben, and Dr. Tambini. You can download them, print them out, hang them on your refrigerator. The most important thing is that you actually do them. They're assessments. It's going to cause you to think about your situation. And after completing the guide, if you want our assistance, you can go to the homepage and click the schedule a call. Also, go to Facebook, Ben, and in Facebook, you're going to find what, Ben?
The Sobriety Network.
The Sobriety Network. Yes, that's our Facebook group. We did rebrand it. It was called Real Recovery Talk Support Group. Now it is called the Sobriety Network. You can go in there. It's welcome to absolutely everybody. If you've been affected by addiction or alcoholism in any capacity, you're welcome there. If you're a family member or a loved one, we would love to have you. If you're an addict in recovery, an alcoholic in recovery, we would love to have you. And if you need to be in recovery, we definitely would like to have you in there. So go to Facebook and go to the Sobriety Network. Am I forgetting anything?
I think you got it all.
Go to realrecoverytalk.com/services. If you would like to schedule a 1-hour call with either myself, Ben, or Dr. Tambini, you could do that at realrecoverytalk.com/services. And you just click the little link, you make payment, you schedule a call, and you have our undivided attention for 60 whole minutes. All right, that's it. How we doing?
Chilling.
Yep.
Dani drove all the way up from Miami.
Miami. South Beach?
No, Cutler Bay.
I have no idea where that's at.
South of Kendall.
No clue where that's at either.
That's south of South Beach?
South of South Beach, yeah.
Whoa.
How long did it take you to get up here?
About an hour and a half.
That's
Wow.
not bad.
Really?
I mean, you must have hit no traffic.
Yeah, there's express lanes.
So you're almost in the Keys.
Just before it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, that's cool. Drive an hour and a half to spend an hour and a half with us.
Well, I used to live up here, so.
Yeah. So, Ben, I'll let you do an introduction for Dani. I know you guys go back. Dani and I, we met once before a long time ago, but you are LCSW, correct?
That's correct.
Which is a licensed clinical social worker for all of you people that don't know what that is. It's a lot of school, I can tell you that. But Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I will. I got a few things to say. So I don't know what direction this is going to go, really, but the conversation is always organic. Dani and I, we go back to 2016, I believe. I was in the process of starting a new treatment center at the time, and Dani was our clinical director. So our relationship started back then. Since then, we've just always stayed in touch, and I'll get personal on this one a little bit. So just to be very straightforward, I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but I've had a lot of life changes in my personal life the last, 5.5, 6 months, Tom, something like that. And honestly, Dani has been somebody that's really been an ear and a voice for me. Like our relationship has been just pivotal and helping me process certain things. And I'll just throw it out there. I'm kind of beating around the bush, but I've been single for 5.5 months after a very long-term relationship. And it's weird, right? I won't go into detail on what happened or anything like that out of respect for other parties. But so where I'm going with this, though, is that Dani is actually, and she can explain this better herself, I'll ask her to, but she's a virtual therapist and life coach.
Yeah.
So primarily, if I understood correctly, focusing mostly on women, but what's really cool is, in my opinion, as a guy, is that through a lot of requests, a lot of men were requesting that she start doing a men's group. And you can explain all the platforms you're on and all that stuff, but just somebody that's, I don't know, been very pivotal in my life and very good at communicating and getting to help people to process. Like, you have a gift for it, to be straightforward, and I've experienced it personally.
I just want to add something.
Go ahead.
Breaking news that you announced that you're single. So you can go to realrecoverytalk.com/Ben Single to fill out an application to apply to. I'm just kidding. But, no, you've never shared that.
No, I know. I've been hesitant to share that, and I don't want to get into details. It's again out of respect for the party. Yeah. So.
Ben single. And so here we are with Dani, and Dani has helped you navigate your singleness.
Big time.
Yeah. So Dani, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you to where you are today? You obviously have experience in the treatment field, which I do want to dive into in some capacity, in particular. Because you don't want to, let's just start with this, and then we'll kind of go from there. You don't work in treatment anymore.
Not in person.
Okay.
It's all telehealth.
In your experience working in the treatment industry, in terms of substance abuse, what were some of the pitfalls, I suppose, that you recognized as a clinical director? Like, what are some areas in which you, looking back on, areas in which could be improved in terms of substance abuse treatment?
So overall, and by the way, I just want to say thanks, Ben, for the hype. I really appreciate that. And I noticed that some of the treatment centers would say they do certain things on their website or give you a tour, and everything looks a certain way. But then actually being there and working there, it was usually a different story.
Yeah.
Like what were like actual services that were offered and things that were provided. They would say that those things were, but they weren't.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because, I mean, you can really make a website look and say whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like our website, full transparency, if you go on the homepage, it's just a picture of the beach. And so you would think, oh, maybe rocks on the beach. Well, we're not, but it's a very nice picture. But, we're very transparent. Now, if you scroll into the website and you look under housing and stuff like that, all those pictures are real. The only picture that's not real is the picture on the front. And it's literally just a picture of the ocean with some weeds, So it's, it's not like we're not saying we're an oceanfront property, but we are close to the beach, Ben.
Yeah.
So how long did you work in the field?
Since 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I look young. It's those Asian genes.
Wow.
I didn't realize you've been in the field that long.
Yeah, I had already been in the field when Ben and I met.
2009?
That's before we got sober.
So did you in what capacity in 2009 did you start working in this field?
As a social worker. So working with families, some of them lost their housing either due to finances or circumstances, a fire, things like that. And the company that I was working with, it wasn't related to addiction. This was more like homelessness and helping families get back on their feet.
And you were licensed in 2009?
No, I wasn't licensed till 2013. At this point, I was just a therapist, like a family counselor.
And what made you veer towards addiction?
Having my own issues.
Ooh, interesting. Let's get into that.
Yeah. So there was a point in time where I was very hypocritical. I was telling people to do things, meditation or worksheets and things like that, that I myself wasn't even involved in developing myself personally. For a while there, this was right before I met Ben. For a period of time, I had issues with ecstasy, cocaine, and Molly. I stopped using in around 2015, but then drinking became a problem. Stopped drinking in 2017, but then unhealthy relationships became a problem. So it was like the addiction was just transitioning. And it sounds I'm just going to be real and honest, that I at some point was like, let me try some of these things that I'm telling these other people to do. Let me try some of these things, that some of the techniques and tools and worksheets and that's why I think over time, even in group sessions, sometimes I'm like, all right, I know how we feel about worksheets, but some of the information was legitimately helping me. And I started to realize, okay, I think this is really where I need to be, is more so an addiction than say homelessness or mental health.
Wow. So the hypocritical aspect of it, I like. Take us back to that moment where, okay, you put down the ecstasy and the Molly, and then you move on to the drinking. Like, walk us through those moments. What happens, like, in your head that makes you kind of realize, okay, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm over here preaching about all these things, and I myself, I'm not even doing them. Like, what was that like?
There was a moment, I will never forget this. I was doing a group in 2013 or 14, and it was 2014. And I had just gotten into working into addiction. I'm coming from mental health and things like that. And I was running a group, and the client, we said something, we were talking about the big book. And at that time, I did not know what the big book was. And I said that. I said, what is that? And that client checked me. They were like, you're running groups and you don't even know what an effing big book is? And I was like, dang. And it hurt, but I think I needed to hear it, because there are probably times where nowadays people still do the same thing now, where you have people who are, helping other people with addiction. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that everybody has to have an addiction to help people with addiction, but it did put myself in check of, here I am living a certain kind of lifestyle, but I'm not even being in alignment really of the things that I'm teaching people to do and how I'm behaving myself.
What do you got, Ben?
Yeah, no, the hypocritical part, like, I love that. And I've talked about that with my story before. Like, when I first got sober, started sponsoring people, started working in treatment, especially at that point, I had 2 years of sobriety, and I'm giving all these suggestions, same exact thing that you're saying. It's almost like when, and I think for me, this is why I'm so big, like on the 12-step in service, when you become the teacher, like you almost have no choice but to either turn back the way that you were going and screw your life up again, or like start doing what you're telling everybody else out of pride and ego, to be straight up with you. Like, because people, a lot of times they'll bash pride and ego, but my ego absolutely helped me turn a corner, because I didn't want people to think I was a hypocrite. I didn't want people to think like, hey, this guy's saying do all this stuff and he doesn't do it himself, or he doesn't know what it is. Like, in particular, I remember too, like, and you mentioned the big book, because I kind of had a similar experience where I wasn't very familiar with the big book. Like, I'd read the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, blah, 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 blah. But I remember sitting at a meeting specifically one time, and it was Tara and Ron. I won't drop their last names, but I remember them spitting stuff out of the big book, and I was like, holy crap. They just made me feel like I know nothing. And I'm like, how do I find this out? how do I look as cool as them? I'll just call it what it is. I want to look as cool as them in recovery, get this knowledge. But you get that knowledge, and then like over the course of time, just, I don't know, man, by being the teacher, you're almost forced to like live this lifestyle. Like if you're a personal trainer, I wouldn't want to be an out of shape personal trainer.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing. Like you almost fall into this, and it takes all of your character assets, defects to kind of formulate that, if that makes sense.
It's attraction, not promotion, is one of the big things that you hear, especially if you're working some sort of 12-step program. And it sounds like that's somewhat, even though that was kind of a gut check for you, there was something about that drew you towards more of a recovery lifestyle. So did you like dive into the 12 steps after that? What did that look like?
So I checked different things out. And this is the same thing I tell people too today, clients or patients, of I looked at AA, I went to NA meetings, and then eventually I stumbled upon Codependence Anonymous, and that really resonated with me personally. Like that is where I realized it wasn't so much of whatever the substance was. This could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it turned into people, but it was really about what was going on with me and that thing, as opposed to what exactly that thing was.
So Codependency Anonymous. Never been to a CODA meeting. What does it like? Is it the same format?
Yes. Yeah.
And what's how's the steps work? And is it, I am powerless over people?
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, I won't go into, I don't follow in detail with CODA, but some of their teachings, some of like, for example, Melody Beatty, she's very huge in that field of codependency. And when it comes to some of the practices, just as far as like detachment, for example, things that where we notice that it's not so much about the substance. For example, this could be coffee, this could be anything, and I could be addicted to it. It's looking at my dynamic with that as opposed to what that exactly is.
Your relationship to it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I like how you said that, your dynamic with it. Because like going back to like, I always relate to my personal experience. That's what Dani has helped me with. Like, what's your dynamic with this relationship? What you're feeling right now? Like, she gets deep, dude. And I'm like, where do you come up with these questions?
Well, there's, I mean, if you really think about this, and yeah, we can go super deep into this, but we have a relationship with everything. Doesn't even have to be people. Like, I have a relationship with the seat that I'm sitting in because it's something that we have built. You know what I mean? Like the podcast, this seat represents something. These cameras represent something. This picture represents something. So we have a relationship with absolutely everything in our lives, good or bad, and being able to identify what that relationship is and how it plays into our life is very valuable in the recovery sense. That I don't know where I just came up with that, Ben, but that was very insightful.
Tom, I am really impressed.
I'm impressed with myself right there.
I'm going to credit Dani.
Yeah.
Did I pull that out?
Dude, see what I mean? She gets you like thinking.
Yeah. Damn it.
I feel smarter when
Our
I'm around
therapist would be very jealous right now. They would. So you go into these codependency meetings, and then you said that you went from Molly and ecstasy to alcohol to people. Was it through the codependency meetings that this stuff started coming to light, and then like what did you do at that point?
Yes, it did. Because I think hearing other people, and this is probably similar for AA and NA, when I went into the CODA meetings and started listening to other people's stories and realizing, oh, I'm not so alone in these behaviors that I have. And then from there, I started reading different books. So she has Melody Beatty, that same person that spearheads codependency. She has a Codependent No More book and workbook. And the workbook, it's similar to what I imagine, like working through the 12 steps of AA or NA, of just having to go through character inventory and amendments and connecting where some of my behavior stemmed from earlier, from other people and other relationships.
So you said you went to the meetings and you connected with some of the stories. Mm-hmm. Give us some examples of like stories that you have heard or maybe you have experienced, because people out there here, codependency is oftentimes, and me, Nicole, and Ben Harrison did a whole episode on codependency.
Okay.
And I was silent basically the whole time because it's two therapists basically talking. I didn't have much to add. But it can be used as like a buzzword. So like people are like, oh yeah, I'm codependent. And it's like, well, are you really? Or I'm not codependent. And maybe you are. What are some stories or examples of codependency that played in your life and that you've heard from others?
I'm really glad that you just asked that, because I was a person that I'm like, I'm not codependent. Like, I love going to the movies by myself. I love doing things by myself. I'm not codependent, but it was through, so I'll give you an example. If I help you guys, but deep down inside, I don't want to, but I agree to anyway, like people pleasing. That's a trait of codependency, of like, I'm so concerned of what other people think that something they say in Coda is set ourselves on fire to keep other people warm. So I will do certain behaviors that are actually hurtful, not physically, but like emotionally, mentally, psychologically, that are hurtful to myself just to benefit someone else.
I like that. Set ourselves on fire to keep somebody else warm.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
No, I'm going to make a reel on that, I think, if I can remember it. Ben, what do you got?
No, I'm still processing all that. I can't help it, but I sit here and think about like myself and what I'm going through. Like, and I'm sitting here analyzing. Tom is definitely not codependent, like at all. You're the picture perfect, not codependent person, right?
As we're talking about that, I am codependent on, because here's the thing. Well, Dani, I'll ask you if we're going to be. I'm very open about, and my wife would agree with this. I have a codependent relationship with her in a sense. Like, I'm okay if she's okay. And if she's not okay, I'm not okay. And then I go into fix it mode, which makes things worse. You know what I mean? We just had not a lot, but some issues with my dad, who, listeners know he's been living with me for the past couple of years. We had an incident, had to move him, so on and so forth. But that affected her in a certain sort of way that I wasn't really cognizant of, and then I go into my go-to is anger, right? I get angry and then I go into like fix it, So rather than letting her have her process and do what she wants to do with it, I start like, prying and then it turns into I'm sorry, and then it turns into like what can I do, and then it goes into I need to do better. And that's where like the codependency side of me comes in, because I'll find myself saying I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. I'm only saying I'm going to do X, Y, and Z because I want things to go back to status quo. Right. So with my wife, I am codependent. Other people, not so much, but I have I don't like it when I know somebody's upset with me, and like that, I think will maybe draw some things out, even if like deep down, like I don't necessarily care if you don't like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think I have a level of codependency, but not near as much as you do, Ben.
That's what I was getting at.
So
yeah, no, I'll burn the candle at both ends for other people. And I think honestly, a lot of it's like a survival mechanism where like, because we were just talking in retrospect earlier where I was talking about I didn't want to look like a hypocrite. So I started doing all the good things. But then like, where do I measure to turn that off? Because now like I've taken that and brought it to the other extreme of like, now I'm going to help everybody. Now I'm going to go to all these meetings to show everybody I do this and sponsor all these people, to the point where like I start getting burned out. I start getting resentful, angry, depressed, whatever. Frog in my throat. But yeah, I was like choking a little. Sorry.
Do you need a drink?
No, I'm good. I recovered with an ED on the end.
Got that. saw what you guys did there.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like with any defect, like codependency, it's like there's a healthy and then an unhealthy, but I get lost in the mix of like what's healthy, what's not healthy. And where do you turn it off?
Is there a such thing as healthy codependency?
That's a good question. I guess, yeah, you know what? In a way, there could be, in a sense, depending on the intention and the outcome. Because Ben and I have a really good friendship. And I've told Ben a few times that I value our friendship because it's in our conversations that I realize things about myself too. So I wouldn't be surprised if even some friendships can be a little bit codependent. But when I'm saying codependency, I'm also talking about things that we allow. Like, so for example, if there's a relationship and I can easily say, oh, that guy was a jerk and he was this and he was that and he did this and he did that, but I allowed it. That's a sign of codependency. Like, here I am continuing to allow this relationship, even though they're unhealthy for me. There's a lot of things that are not good for me, so to speak, in the relationship, but I'm still continuing to be in it because of fear of being alone or fear of being lonely. That would be a good example there of some codependency.
Do you feel like you, because in AA there's the term recovered. Do you feel like you're recovered from codependency? No.
I still see it.
Do you?
I still see it sometimes. Yeah. Even with work, that's another, addiction, right? Work can also, because I haven't done any of those substances, my addiction comes out in different ways now. So it can look like overworking myself, especially because I too am single. So if I'm not, involved or thinking about, okay, it's dinner time and my partner's home, I'm just thinking, oh, you know what? I've got some time. Let me work. And I'll just work until late at night. So I still have to catch myself of filling in certain feelings with certain things. Priorities, people. If I know that I'm going to go do something, I might put somebody else's, say, for example, if they want to hang out, I might, let me see if there's a way I can like move around my schedule to see them, even though I know that seeing them is probably going to put me behind on something. So I'm just having to be very cognizant of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the things that you've said though, too, is like, you don't just wake up one morning and have all these revelations. This has been the better part of 10 years of you working on yourself and continuing to do so. So let's transition now into more. Go ahead.
Let her mention her book.
No,
too.
That's what I was going to do.
Okay.
I wanted to transition into this, but then transition into like what you're doing now.
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk about the what you're doing now too.
Yeah.
Because I got some insight on that.
So as far as the book goes, story of an ex-party girl, how to feel happy and good about yourself without alcohol and drugs. Right here. There it is, Ben.
When was it published?
2018.
2018.
Yep. By Walton Publishing House.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah. Amazon bestseller.
Yeah.
Hold it up so they can see on YouTube.
I just did right here.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
I'm zooming in as we speak.
Okay. I'm okay if you're okay.
Yeah. What's the premise behind the book? What made you write this book? And who's a what am I looking for? Ideal customer for this book?
Women. Usually women who find themselves feeling feelings like loneliness, anxiety, depression with things like alcohol, Xanax, substances, basically. Shopping, sex, relationships, and they're noticing. So the book has a little bit of my story in there, but it's really mostly different tools, techniques, and strategies. I just kind of married some of my story in there so that people can see how I applied some of those things to myself.
It's a big book. In comparison to what I'm used to reading, which is not at all
children's books.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good stuff in here. It looks like, yeah. Ben, have you read this book?
I have not. I was just thinking that. I was like, I should read it.
You should. What's the feedback been on it?
It's been good. It's been that women that have bought it, well, a few of my friends also bought it out of support too, but from some of the readers that it's helpful. I try to push myself as somebody that's very practical, because we hear a lot of things and it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? Love myself. How do I do that? What do I actually have to do that? And that's kind of how my brain thinks of like, you need to give me instructions. So that's kind of how I wrote that book.
What would be an example? If I said to you, Dani, I just need to love myself, what would you tell me to do?
I like to look at what promises people are making with themselves, because I start with integrity first. Because if for example, let's say I tell you guys, hey, especially because do reps, if I say, let's go to the gym, and you call me and I don't answer, and then the next time I'm like, I'm so sorry, I wasn't feeling well. And we'll go the following day. And again, I flake out. It's easy. You could see like, oh gosh, Dani's a flake. She keeps telling us she'll meet us at the gym and then she doesn't. It's easy to see it externally, but it's harder to see it when we're doing that to ourselves, right? So I'm saying, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to go to the gym. I'm just going to hit snooze. It's no big deal. I'll go the next day. And we don't realize that breaking my word with myself, that contributes to not loving myself. Like, it's not just about, my hair and my nails. It's also like the practice of being my word, integrity, following through, not just obviously with other people, but mostly with myself too. So if you ask me that question, that's how I would answer that, of looking at, are you making any sort of promises to yourself that you notice that you're breaking?
Yep.
I think that ties into Brad Jensen, the sober bodybuilder. That's his IG handle. And I just did like a reel on this last week or something. But
speaking of, you got to reach out to Brad Jensen.
I know, Tom. I know. I failed.
Yeah.
I'll try
You're failing.
I'm working on my codependency, actually. And I don't care what you think.
This doesn't qualify. It's also following through with your promises that you made to yourself and other people.
Yeah, but that's why it's like me working on my codependency.
All right, anyways.
Anyway. But he says, in order to build self-esteem, do esteemable acts for yourself and for others. And I had never heard it broke down like that, but it's the same kind of thing. Like, if you tell yourself you're going to do something, do it. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, like the days that, and you use the gym as an example, like I've done that before. I still do it. Like, I'm going to go at 5 a.m. instead of at 11. That way I feel like I have the rest of the day ahead of me. And then I hit that snooze button. And then I'm going at 11. And then I feel like I'm rushing the rest of the day. And I'm like, I let myself down. This could have been different. Like, and it's just a spiral.
I think, though, the gym isn't a good example for you, because you have a relationship with the gym that I would say isn't unhealthy, but like, just going to the gym for you is like, you're gonna go. I don't think it matters at all when you go, you're gonna go. Now, for me, if I say I'm gonna go to the gym at 5 a.m. and I don't go at 5 a.m., I ain't going. You know what I mean? That's the difference. Like, I'm not going to go. You are going to make sure that you go to the gym regardless of what time of day it is. And then if you don't go at 5 a.m., you end up beating yourself up over it and letting yourself down when you know full damn well you're just going to go in a couple hours anyway. You chose to sleep in for a few hours. Right, Dani?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I'm being ganged up on right now.
No, so, but no, I mean, that makes sense, though. But, you know, Ben, you're a work in progress, buddy.
I know.
We
So
all are.
Yeah, the book I'll have linked in the show notes and stuff. It's, again, Stories of an Ex-Party Girl, How to Feel Happy and Good About Yourself Without Drugs and Alcohol. So see the show notes and click the little link, and it's on Amazon. Yeah. Is there an audio version?
No.
You should have done an audio version.
I've been told that, actually. Maybe I will.
Yeah.
So to kind of tag along with the topic that we're on too, it's like, you do women support on what platforms?
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest,
YouTube.
Yeah, Pinterest, it's just articles. It's a lot of articles that link back.
And what's it called? I know the answer, but I'm asking you so you could tell them.
What?
What's the name of it?
Your program?
What, my affinity care?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's my private practice, affinity care. And it was originally just working as a therapy and coaching practice with women, ambitious women, teaching ambitious women effective tools to build confidence and feel worthy again, whether post-breakup, single, or in a relationship. So that's what I do now. And then just recently, and I mean recently, like last week, maybe not even, within the last few days or so, started an online men's group. Just because the last few years, my focus has only been with women. But every time I put things out for women, things like this or just different things, I usually get feedback from men because I used to work in treatment centers. So I still have some people that I keep in touch with in the treatment center world. And men have asked, well, what about us? What about us? What about us? So just recently I started an online men's group.
So is this if we were to look up what's it called?
Affinity care.
Affinity care. Are these group sessions? Is it individual counseling?
I do both. I do, and everything is all online. And I operate, even though I am a licensed clinical social worker, I operate as a coach. So that way I can see people everywhere. I'm not limited to just the state of Florida. So I do have clients outside of Florida.
Interesting. And who's your ideal customer?
Well, I used to think that it was women, because I've just been doing that for so long. But this last few weeks, I'm kind of regrouping things, especially because I myself, like Ben, I got out of a relationship as well. And I guess you could say in a way, because I'm coming from Codependence Anonymous, it's a relapse in my mind. I relapsed in a way of being engaged to somebody. We were together for about 3 years. And then about a month before the wedding, he became abusive. So I canceled the wedding and broke up with him. But saying all that to say that this last year basically has been just kind of regrouping, kind of recalibrating in a way, like trying to figure out where I'm kind of going to go from here. Because it's interesting when you think your life is going to go a certain way and then all of a sudden it's completely different. So now I'm kind of like, well, let's see where I go with this, because there seems to be a need for support online for men. So I'm just kind of taking that one step at a time.
Can I ask a personal question?
Yeah.
You said you relapsed. Like, in what context? With the relationship?
Yeah.
But you were with him for 3 years?
And there were things, I think, that, again, going back to allowing and not saying things.
Okay.
Not communicating, not standing up for myself.
So it was a long relapse.
I would say so, yeah, in a way. Because sometimes people say, well, was this out of nowhere? Did he just become abusive out of nowhere? But there were certain things that were signs that I was in denial of. So that's why in my mind, I kind of look at it as like I could have ended it sooner, but didn't, out of whether it was like loneliness, not, getting older and the fear of being a woman coming up to close to 40s and all these other things that go on in my head.
So this, there's so many parallels with the codependency and everything that you've described and substance abuse. Mm-hmm. What we call before a quote unquote relapse is the prelapse, right? And if we look in context of substance abuse, what are signs and symptoms of a relapse coming up? I don't know. We can rattle them off. You forget you stop praying. You stop meditating. You stop, I don't know, going to meetings. You stop talking to sober supports. Even you stop even making your bed, mm-hmm. or all these things. The signs and symptoms are there. And ultimately what ends up happening is you end up, really relapsing. In your situation, all the signs and symptoms are there, and then the abuse happens, and then it's like now we're operating out of a state of reacting over responding,
right?
So anyways, I wanted to draw attention to that.
I actually pulled up your thing on Instagram here because one of the things that I was thinking about is like I wanted you to share like some of the topics that you would cover with women, for instance, with men too. And like I really liked this when I saw it, and I think I told you that. But for instance, some of the topics that you brought up was like discussing ways to cultivate self-love and trust, improve relationships / perspective, especially with women, for men, from a man's perspective, working through fears. And then this last one really jumped out to me, gaining clarity on masculinity, like, and roles and what we're supposed to be doing. And it's confusing out there.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
What is toxic masculinity?
So this is a conversation I had with Ben of I am not doing the group as a way of me telling a man how to be a man, which is frankly, I'm very nervous about the group just because I am not a man. And that's probably one of the underlying reasons I've put off creating the group is because of my fears and my own fears and insecurities. Even coming up with that topic, I'm not even going to go into like what I think masculine. I mean, I could share a little bit of my own opinion, sure. But as far as like from a mental health or in a psychological perspective, I'm really there more so co-facilitating, just creating a safe space for people to have conversation, kind of like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed and speaking with you to kind of like hit home your point is that, yeah, now that you're saying that and I'm processing, it's like you've never really like given me your strong opinion. Like if you have an opinion, you're going to be like, do you want my opinion on this? And you'll do it. But most of the time you're asking me like, okay, with these details, what does that mean to you? And that's when I'm like sitting there like, and you kind of like nudge me in different directions to try to get me to see like whatever the topic is to me. In particular, there was something that we were talking about, which I personally don't mind sharing, but like, you know, we just announced I've been single for a little while, and you know, and we were actually having this discussion when she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a men's group," and you mentioned that you were nervous being a woman, and I said to you, I was like along these lines of like, yeah, look, as a single dude, like I go to all my bros, and they're like, go out there and slay the town, like be a man, you know, like I'm just gonna call it what it is, but getting a woman's perspective too on like it's just different. Like when I'm surrounded by testosterone, they're all, you know, I'm at the gym with my guys, my bros, they're like egging me on to do all the things that maybe don't like fit my lifestyle and who I am today. Maybe when I was 20 years old and partying and sure, but like at the end of the day, like really evaluating like where I'm at today, what it means to me, and getting perspective that's not driven by testosterone, like go out there and get laid, Ben, you know, I'm just being straight up, like,
yeah,
you get a lot of that.
I think toxic masculinity, just like codependency, is turned into a buzzword.
Yes.
People throw it around without even really understanding what it is. Because I don't, in my personal opinion, and I haven't spent hours thinking about this, but if I were to give my opinion of it right now, I don't necessarily think it is quote unquote a real thing, you know, like masculinity in and of itself. It's just masculinity. And there's some men that are assholes and some men that aren't, you know, and to put a label on it, I think ultimately what it does is it drowns out masculinity in and of itself. You know, I think that being a man comes with, like, if I were to put a definition on masculinity, it's first and foremost having a relationship with God, caring for your family, caring for your fellows, being a protector, all the things. What I don't think masculinity, or it is masculinity, just a total different form, is exactly what you're talking about. You know, thinking with our penis, you know what I mean? Going out and being a man whore,
right,
and degrading women and all those things. Is it toxic? I suppose, but why do we have to? You're just, at that point, you're just a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? And like putting a label on, because then what you ultimately have is in social media, now you have all these reels and stuff created, all the shorts, all the content being created around toxic masculinity. And it's like, no, they're just an asshole. But you can also say the same about women. You know what I mean? Like there's women out there that do the exact same thing. And I've never heard the term toxic femininity. Have you, Ben? Or have you, Dani?
No, it's interesting that you bring that up. I'm just thinking that. I was like, wait, I haven't thought about that.
And there definitely are,
yes.
And it's everybody's own experience. And I'm going off on this because it like drives me crazy. One thing that drives me crazy, and I don't know where you fall in this camp, but this is just my honest truth. There's a lot of women out there that are promoting not having children. They're promoting like boss babe, I don't need anybody. I'm my own person, yada, yada, yada. And that in and of itself for me, again, my own opinion, there's a level of toxicity in that. Because now you have girls that are coming up that are not having children because, they see some girl influencer that didn't have children, when studies out there show when you get older and women that don't have children, you ask them what's one of their biggest regrets in life is I didn't have children, and that's something that's being promoted in this day and age. So I think it goes both ways. And I mean, I know you don't have any kids, so I didn't mean anything.
No, that's okay.
But it just drives me crazy.
You have a whole point there in and of itself, because when you're saying these, and I don't mean to sound like I'm generalizing, but to speak to that, what you just said, with particularly like women who find themselves wanting to be very independent, that in and of itself has its own issues with that dynamic too. And I'm going through that as well, because I even see my own, Ben knows, I see my own psychologist to work through my own issues of being raised as don't depend on a man, that's an okay thing. That's logical, be independent, financially independent and secure so that you're not relying on somebody. But then that can totally end up being like hyper independent now. And it's almost like I don't trust anybody or want anybody to help me kind of thing.
Right.
So that turns into a whole other thing in and of itself.
Yeah. And as like a man, I want a woman that I can take care of.
Right.
Yes, I want you to be an independent woman. Like if I died, I would know you're okay, kind of thing. But at the end of the day, also, like as a man, like I feel like part of our role is like having the opportunity to take care of a woman, a family, like, and I don't want to be robbed of that either. There are roles. It is what it is.
I mean, thousands of years we've been operating this, and we evolve in all the things. Like I love seeing when women are independent and can go out and do all the things, but I also want to see them have kids and be in families and, don't work if you can live that lifestyle and not work and take care of kids and raise children and yada, yada, yada. But you see people almost getting shamed for that nowadays. So
to each their own, though, at the end of the day. Like,
yeah. Just leave me the hell alone. Tom. What else? We're coming up on 50 minutes here, Ben.
Yeah. You also, you mentioned, I want you to mention a couple of the other things you do. You do the guided meditations on the beach.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I do.
That's a regular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? I mean, I know what it is, but.
Yeah, the second Saturday of every month. Well, I have relocated it. It used to be in Boca Raton, but because of my personal things, I now relocated my business to Miami. So I teach a meditation class in a park in Miami the second Saturday of every month.
And where is there like signups or you just show up?
Either way, yes, they're signing up or people can just show up. But yeah, it's on Eventbrite.
Okay. And what would they search?
My name and guided meditation.
Dani LaBerrie guided meditation.
I personally, that's just my opinion. The easiest way I've been able to keep up with what Dani has going on is Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Facebook, you post like all the posters of the upcoming events. Like I forget the day the one is. It's on a Friday.
Yeah, Feel Good Friday.
It's in my calendar to jump on there and listen when you go live and all that stuff. So
what is that?
So with these different groups that I have online, I do different sessions. They're 15 minutes. I call them tune in, tap in, and touch base because everybody's busy and I get everybody's attention span is only so long. So the intention is just to kind of do like a pick me up, just kind of tune in. Somebody can listen, they can watch, and for all of my different communities. So for the Affinity Lounge, which is men and women, on certain Fridays of the month, I have something called Feel Good Friday, which is 15 minutes for men and women to talk about different topics. And then in my women's group, Affinity Lounge Women, we have something we do called Tuesday's Tea, which I actually have it tonight. It's 15 minutes, but those topics are more so related to women, women's issues. And then the new men's group, Affinity Lounge Men, has also, we're calling that one Cup of Confidence. And that one is at the end of the month, 15 minutes as well. And that topic is what is or isn't masculinity to you. So I just do different topics related to people, some of the challenges that my clients are having that month. Some of it comes from my book.
What I like about it, the way that you do things, is that like doing the 15 minutes, I get little snippets of like, if I didn't know you, I'm like, okay, this is what she's about. She obviously knows what she's talking about. She's summing this up in 15 minutes. And then I'm like, how do I get more of this? This would be more beneficial on a one-on-one level. Then hit you up and do Zoom. Like, Zoom sessions?
Yeah, that's
one-on-one?
exactly what I do. It's what you just said there. Because, there are a lot of therapists, there are a lot of coaches. And I try my best to I want to be able to offer support to everybody at some sort of level. And I know that not everyone can, sometimes have the money to invest in a one-on-one. So at least doing it in that way, they still get some support. It's not, I don't feel like I'm burnt out either. If they like it and they resonate with what I'm teaching or doing, they're like, okay, like Ben said, all right, you know what? I do want to do a one-on-one with her. So that is the intention of it, the idea, and still provide, resources and information to people who need it.
So you're on Instagram as, what's the Instagram?
Dani LaBarrie. And Facebook as well.
Spell LaBarrie.
LAB as in boy, ARRIE.
Okay, good. I'm glad I asked you because I would have spelled it completely wrong. I would have been
but
like...
Dani is also DANI.
It is, yes, that's
so
true.
So Dani, DANILABARRIE.
Yeah.
I would have spelled it BERRY.
Well, yeah, that's how a lot of people do.
So Instagram, go there. Facebook, same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
And if they wanted to find Affinity, they can go on...
my website. My name, DaniLaBarrie.com.
Oh, wow. That's cool. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
I looked up TomConrad.com and it was taken.
Really?
I'm like, what the heck? Tom Conrad Jr., I think, was available. But I'm like, what do I don't know.
You are a junior.
I know.
That would have worked out.
Yeah, but like, I don't need it.
But the original guy would have been your dad.
Yeah, and the
one that owns the other website.
He doesn't even know how to get online. But we do have realrecoverytalk.com /Ben Single. Fill out an application. No, I'm just kidding. Dani, it was a pleasure.
I don't know. It's been one of the suggestions. I jump on a dating app and all right, funny. I'm laughing at myself right now, but I've pulled open like Facebook dating and so like started filling it out and closed that thing out probably like 50 times.
Facebook dating?
Is that what it's called?
It is called that.
They have a Facebook dating?
Bro,
thing?
it's and Facebook will get you. As soon as I changed my status thing to single, all of a sudden this new little icon pops up at the bottom. I'm like,
a heart.
Yeah, and then I get ads. I'm like, what? Bro, telling you, they get you.
Well, do you have to pay for it? Or?
I don't know. I didn't get that far.
No.
Well, I think you know what, Ben? Just start going to church, okay?
There you go.
Find yourself a nice little church girl.
All right.
Dani, it was a pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Ben, any final thoughts?
No, I'm glad you came up here. It's been awesome.
All right, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.